Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So the first one I have... Holy shit. Okay. Okay, okay, so the first one I have is it's a diptych, or it's two images together in one. So on the left, it looks like you're intubated in a hospital. You have the whole... Well, the sheets are up to your chest. There's some kind of bandage right in the middle of your sternum. There's all these sensors taped to your bicep. You're intubated, so you've got this plastic thing going into your mouth that's taped down. Your eyes are shut. You're unconscious. Somebody's hand is rubbing your skull. And then you can't see, but you see all the sensors on the walls. I mean, it's a hospital bed. And on the left, somebody's holding onto the bed as well. That's full on. And next to that is an image of you in black gi. So it's all black. It says something martial. They're like, could be Japanese characters, but it says 100% something or other. Martial something fitness. You're standing in a black gi, looking right at the camera, hand on hips. You seem to have a black belt. That looks like you have a black belt. You're looking very neutrally at the photographer. Somewhat pleased. Somewhat satisfied face. Danny, what is this?
That is less than 1,000 words of something you've described. And that is the beauty of photography right there. What you are looking at on the left is an image of me having my 8th open heart surgery.
8?
My 8th
Holy
open heart
shit.
surgery. That image was taken 7 years ago. My aorta had ruptured, and I nearly died on the operating table. And that picture is taken probably about a day after that surgery, where it was very touch and go. I didn't have blood or oxygen for 9 minutes. And not to spoil anything, but I made it. And you're purposely looking at an image that's been contrasted because on the right side of that picture is me earning my black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu 20 months later.
Danny, respect. Oh man, okay. Since I'm a podcaster, of course I'm doing jiu-jitsu. I think it's kind of like almost a prerequisite. I'm saying this facetiously. Black belt in jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu. Several open heart surgeries. Where are you? Where in the world are you?
So I live in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
Which is a couple blocks away from you.
You know, I grew up in Montreal, so I hitchhike to Ottawa all the time.
Okay, so we're not far. I'm about an hour from Montreal.
So do you live in Ottawa, or do you live in...
Kind of on the outskirts of Ottawa. If I say Ottawa, people know where it is. If I say Cumberland, everyone's like, where's that? I'm like,
gotcha.
It's in Ottawa.
Right. Okay, so this is all about... I've been intubated as well. Technically not breathing, no blood to my brain as well. So we share that. How did you first end up in the hospital?
So that picture kind of is starting us at more towards the end of my journey, or where I'm currently at. But to really tell that story properly, it's not my story at all. It's my parents. And so when I was about 11 months old, I flopped over one day. Just flopped over, stopped breathing. My parents thought I was choking on something. I was rushed to the hospital. I was revived. The doctors were perplexed. And my parents, very concerned, didn't know what had happened. And they thought that was the end of it. Well, that cycle of me flopping over, stopping breathing completely, turning gray, rushing to the hospital happened 8, 9, 10 times over the course of a few months. And my
Oh,
parents,
wow.
my parents went from cardiologist to cardiologist, from doctor to doctor, trying to find what on earth is going on. At 11 months old, I had my first heart operation, which was a relatively small procedure, but they determined that there was a problem with my aortic valve and my mitral.
Mm-hmm.
And this pattern of like going unconscious and being revived happened several more times until I was eventually flown to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And at 18 months, I had my first open heart surgery where I was given a 20% chance to live. And that's really where all of this started. Really, it predates my memories of it. I grew up with scars on my body when I was younger. I didn't know how they got there. I'd heard the stories, but it's really my parents' story of just
Yep.
literally going through hell for several years and
Oh,
just, trusting that, I would survive, and I did survive, especially that first surgery. But then as I was
wow.
growing up, like age 8, age 12, 13, 14, I'm having more surgeries because my mitral valve was fixed, but my aortic valve was still causing problems.
Oh, wow.
So from 1985 to 1990, I had five heart surgeries in 5 years.
Your poor parents. So when I was run over by a car in Montreal and severe head trauma, and I wasn't a kid. I was in my 20s. Don't remember any of that time at all. But yeah, like what I know about that is that the people around you really are the ones who live through that trauma, right?
Yeah.
And so, your poor parents. So in terms of your growing up, if we kind of open the door of like self-limiting beliefs, right? Of okay, like living, but also having this cloud or this sort of shadow or whatever metaphor over you. What was that like growing up? I mean, in terms of being told you can, you can't.
Yeah, you said it. I describe growing up, and it was like having a dark cloud follow me. And sometimes that cloud was just there in the background and it would get closer. Other times it was a full storm, and that was surgery. But I grew up, I never did gym class. I never knew my gym teacher. I heard he was really nice, but I've kind of joked, I wasn't the kid that was picked last on the field. I just wasn't even there. So I never did sports growing up. I was never involved in anything like that. And at the time, that was normal. Like that was my normal. And my escape from all of that was drawing. I love to draw.
Okay.
I love to, if I could get my hands on a video camera before they were in our pockets every day, I would just make little home movies. And I would watch people like Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan or Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I would just fantasize like, man, these guys are amazing. I'd love to do that, but I can't. So I would say a lot of my childhood was spent in my head, just escaping into this world that I could draw, where superheroes could do anything, even though I couldn't.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, that is an escape, right, that most kids have, in terms of the superhero or whatever. Well, by most kids, I mean, not most, let's just say kids have. Contrasted to the photo of you intubated, and for people to understand, like for surgeons to repeatedly open up your chest and modify your heart. Then there's a photo of you on your right. Talk to me about Japanese. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your black belt. Respect. So, okay, to get there, you earned time on the mat. So tell me about it.
Yeah.
What attracted you to J?
I've done some BJJ as well. But really what attracted me to
Traitor.
what attracted me to it was the fact I was never allowed to do it. And so much of my life growing up was, you can't do this. You have to be careful. You have to be you have to be responsible. You have to avoid risk. And when I had surgery at 14, I had a mechanical valve put in my heart. And it's plastic. It ticks like a watch. And once that valve was put in, suddenly my quality of health drastically improved. And I think because I was so vulnerable and so at the mercy of the doctors all the time, I wanted to take agency. And that agency came in the form of martial arts, where I'm going to do this to protect myself. I've been so vulnerable and open. Now I'm going to close guard and take charge.
Right.
And that's really the dynamic. My doctors were very much against it. I literally had to show footage of YouTube clips from BJJ or jiu-jitsu just to show my doctors, hey, I'm not doing cage fighting. I want to do this. And it's relatively safe. Right. I'm not going to die.
It's controlled for sure.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And the concession early on when I was a teenager was that, yes, we reluctantly agree, but you can't do tournaments where it's going to be full-blown contact and anything could happen. So that was music to my ears. And I trained, I did karate when I was a kid for a number of years, and then life happened. And then as an adult, wife and kids and job and marriage. Now as an adult in my 30s, I wanted to get back into it. And so I worked at it for a number of years. I was a brown belt, and then boom, aortic aneurysm.
Wow.
And that.
Oh, what? Okay, you're a brown belt, and then, okay.
So I should qualify. I was a brown belt. I was probably months away, or almost maybe less than a year away from testing for my black belt. And I noticed training got very difficult. My breathing was labored. I was covered in bruises. I was having massive bruising. And I saw my cardiologist, and my aortic arch had drastically enlarged. So right away, they're like, no more jiu-jitsu. You got to take it easy. A surgery was scheduled. And then at some point before the surgery happened, they don't know if it was days or weeks or hours, or they don't know. But at some point, my aorta actually ruptured. And the picture you were describing, that was a day after that happened. And that's really
the picture in the basically of you in the hospital.
Yes. That was just a few hours after my surgery, where, they were calling my cardiologist and my surgeon, they were calling him a miracle worker, because he's like, we don't know how you're still alive from that.
That's incredible.
So part of my recovery, I was just looking at, man, I want to get that black belt. I'm so close. And that's what kept me going. And I took all the advice, healed up, and I trained. I was very responsible about it. I wasn't unwise, but I just pushed my limits safely.
Oh man, Danny. Okay. Push your limits safely. Okay. How to make every second count. Well, you started off with a bang. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.